Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for clicking on this video, and welcome back to the second video in my series Durch Berlin zu Fuß, where I'm using this tour guide book from 1984 published by the East Berlin Communist government to explore East Berlin and see how things are different, how things have stayed the same, and really get to see new parts of East Berlin that I haven't seen yet. So I hope you enjoy this series. Today we are doing B. So I'm going to read you the intro from the guidebook to what this tour is, so you'll have an idea of what we're doing today. The route includes the Palace of the Republic and Marx Engels Platz with adjacent historic buildings. It starts at one of the oldest S-Bahn stations in Berlin, Marx Engels Platz station, and immediately leads to one of the oldest buildings in the city, the Holy Spirit Chapel. To cross the Spree River, we first go under and then over the Liebknecht Bridge. You can then make your first acquaintance with the Palace of the Republic from its water side. The tour continues to the new Marstall, which is the stables, the imperial stables, which begins as an imperial horse stable and became a cultural site, and to the building of the State Council of the GDR with Portal 4 of the Berlin Palace, from whose balcony Karl Liebknecht proclaimed the Socialist Republic in 1918. Crossing Marx Engels Platz, one reaches the main entrance of the People's Palace, which is hospitably open to all visitors. Not anymore. On the further way lies the Lustgarten with the cathedral and the old museum, in front of which again the large granite bowl has found its place. A king on his horse leaves the route in front of the National Gallery on the left and leads over to the Friedrichsbrücke, to the most modern hotel of the city, and through a charming complex back to Spandauer Strasse, and thus to the initial part of the path. Alright, so according to the guidebook, on February 7th, 1882, after 9 years of construction, the 12-kilometer long light railroad was inaugurated, crossing the city roughly in an east-west direction, and it connected the Ringbahn, which had been built a few years earlier, that provided access to the city center. Between the stations Janowitzbrücke and Friedrichstrasse, the railroad line, which was built here as a viaduct, followed the former Königsgraben, a part of the fortifications that had simply been filled in. Even today, the winding route is a reminder of the course of the fortified city boundary. Today, Hackescher Markt is lined with these restaurants. All of these tables will be filled in the summertime. From the station Marx Engels Platz, the route leads in a southerly direction first to the forecourt, which is provided with a green area. Until its destruction in the war, the garrison church stood on this site, the ruins of which were demolished in 1960. Of the many historically notable buildings on Spandauer Strasse, only the oldest survived the war. It is the Holy Chapel of the hospital of the same name, which was first mentioned in a document around 1272. The Gothic brick construction of the chapel was built around 1300 on a fieldstone base. The hall was initially only flat roof, but in 1476 the star vault, which is still well preserved today, was added to it. The chapel was also spared in the Great Fire of 1380, but it almost fell victim to a magistrate's decision at the beginning of the 20th century. Thanks to the objections of art historians and committed citizens, this building, which is one of the oldest in Berlin, was not demolished. The route continues along Spandauer Strasse to Karl Liebknecht Strasse, then turns right to the Spree. Along the way, it passes modern sales and service facilities of the elegant Palast Hotel, the travel agency, and the theater box office in Spandauer Strasse, boutiques, dignified snack bars and restaurants under the arcades on Karl Liebknecht Strasse. Under the Liebknecht Bridge, a convenient underpass leads to the other side of the street. There, the path crosses the bridge and turns left at the waterfront of the Palace of the Republic. Where the Palace of the Republic once stood, now stands the Humboldt Forum. After reunification, the newly unified Berlin government decided that they were going to tear down the Palace of the Republic and build this new monstrosity. The Humboldt Forum cost quite a bit of money. I heard somewhere upwards around $6 billion to make. As you can see, the Palace of the Republic was very much of its time. It was still perfectly serviceable. I'm not real sure why they had to tear it down. As you can see, they left the building behind it, which is in the same vein. So what stood here before was the Prussian city palace of the Hohenzollerns. And so the new Humboldt Forum is designed to look like the palace, not from this side, but from the front, which I'll show you. This is one of those times where I'm not real sure if they did the right thing tearing down the old building. A short flight of stairs leads up to the Rathausstrasse, on the opposite side of which stands the new stables. It was built from 1896 to 1902 by the court architect Ernst von Ine for 300 horses and the calashes and sleighs of the imperial court. A bronze plaque at the main portal commemorates the fact that Red sailors and Spartacus fighters successfully defended the Marstall as the seat of the People's Marine Division and meeting place of the Revolutionary Committee against a superior force of reactionary troops during the November Revolution of 1918. Because of destruction during the Second World War, the exterior was restored until 1968. Probably means the exterior was not restored until 1968. On the ground floor of the palace, there are now exhibition rooms of the New Berlin Gallery. In the Spree wing, there are storage rooms of the City Archive and the City Library. It was built from 1962 to 1964 according to a design by the collective R. Korn H. Bagaski and encloses the Staatsratsgebäude Marx Engels Platz to the south, between Breite Strasse and the Spree Canal. Of the representative works of art of the interior, the colored glass windows in the staircase, the etched steel wall in the conference hall, and the 45-meter-long frieze of Meissen porcelain in the banquet hall are particularly noteworthy. From the building of the Council of State, the route leads across Marx Engels Square to the Palace of the Republic. The foundation stone was laid in 1443. It was destroyed in the last war, and in 1950 it was decided to demolish the ruins. The vacated square was leveled, and in 1951 it was given the name Marx Engels Platz. The urban architectural design of this square was a focal point of the redesign of the city's center, which was approved by the Berlin magistrate in 1961. It culminated in the construction of the Palace of the Republic. After a construction period of almost 1,000 days, the People's Palace was opened to the public on April 23, 1976. In addition to the plenary hall of the Volkskammer and the conference and workrooms used by the Volksvertretung, there are 13 restaurants open to all visitors with 1,500 seats, including a youth club and bowling alleys. Several small bars and espressos, wine and beer bars. The largest of the approximately 1,000 rooms of the palace is the Great Hall, which can accommodate a maximum of 5,000 visitors during events. The TIP, the small theater in the palace, has 250 seats. The route via Marx Engels Platz leads straight to the main entrance at the 180-meter wide main front, whose facade consists of natural stone, aluminum, and sun-reflecting thermal glass. Here, a staircase leads directly to the main foyer, in whose 42-meter wide and 86-meter long hall, the 5-meter high glass flower first catches the eye. Escalators, there are 16 in total in this building, lead to the higher floors of the building and also to the gallery of the palace with large-scale murals by artists of the GDR, or down to floors with numerous service facilities. After visiting the Palace of the Republic, we recommend walking across Marx Engels Platz to Marx Engels Brücke, where you can cross the street and walk through the Lustgarten in the direction of the cathedral. In 1653, at considerable expense, Elector Wilhelm had a garden laid out on this square, based on the Dutch model, which, as a chronicler reports, used to be planted with all kinds of useful and ornamental plants, including the first potatoes, but also with cheerful marble pictures between little, bitter orange trees. In 1935, the Nazis turned the pleasure garden into a paved parade ground, on which they set up an anti-Soviet inflammatory exhibition in 1942. Resistance fighters of the group around the Jewish communist Herbert Baum set fire to the exhibition. To commemorate this courageous act and the members of the Baum group who were murdered by the fascists, a memorial stone was placed in the Lustgarten. The cathedral was built in the years 1894 to 1905. This building was preceded by decades of efforts by the Hohenzollerns, especially by Frederick William IV. After a heavy air raid in February 1945, in which the castle was also destroyed, the cathedral burned out. The north side of the Lustgarten is closed off by the classicist building of the Altes Museum. It is considered to be the most important urban planning achievement of the architect Carl Friedrich Schinkel. Incidentally, according to Schinkel's ideas, a granite bowl was to be placed inside the central room of the museum. But with a diameter of almost 7 meters and a weight of 76 tons, it proved to be too powerful for the intended purposes. It therefore found its place in front of the museum in the Lustgarten. And in the bowl you can still see bullet holes. The route turns right from the Altus Museum and goes through Bodestrasse along the colonnades of the National Gallery. Okay, I'm just going to read this. The translation doesn't make much sense, but I'll read it anyway. In this, from 1867 to 1876, by J.H. Strack, after plans of F.A. Stuhler, executed museum, after heavily restored in historical form after severe destruction. Paintings and sculptures from the end of the 18th century to the early 20th century are shown. On the outdoor area are pictorial works from the collection of the National Gallery exhibited, among others. Works by Louis Tillon, Menure, and Gall. The bronze equestrian statue of Frederick William IV, sculpted by Alexander Candronelli in 1886, stands out. The route now leads over the Friedrichsbrücke, straight to Burgstrasse. This was once the site of the Berlin Stock Exchange, built by Friedrich Heetzig. Now the complex of the exquisite Palast Hotel rises on the same spot. Past whose Congress Center, the route leads to the hotel entrance via the car driveway. This 5-star luxury hotel is the newest and at the same time the most modern and beautiful in the city. It has 600 fully air-conditioned rooms and apartments and 12 different restaurants and bars, most of which are open to city guests. The entrances to the Jade restaurant, which offers specialties of Far Eastern cuisine, the cozy Domklause, the Berlin beer pub Nannte Eck, the grill bar, and the self-service restaurant Quick, are located under the arcades in Karl-Liebknecht-Strasse. So this has been a really interesting tour. Not much has changed other than, say, the Marx Engels S-Bahn station and the Marx Engels Platz, and obviously the Humboldt Forum being new. I did learn about the stables. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. So that is one new thing. And the Palast Hotel being the fanciest hotel here in East Berlin really made me laugh. I'm assuming the more we go through this book, the farther from the center we're gonna get. It'll be interesting to see if things change more or change less the farther out you get from the city center here. So I look forward to finding that out. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button and make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.